I am Scott Huckaby, and I am currently the water superintendent of Talbot County Waterworks, which is a fairly large county in west central Georgia in the Piedmont of Georgia, about 2 counties over from the Alabama state line. It only has a water system, but it has 117 miles of water system. So it takes 30 minutes for myself or my guys to drive from the northern end to the southern end once. Very spread out. There are miles of water line with no customers. The water system was put in with federal money in 1989. It was 100% funded by the federal government. Back then, I did not find that they had any standards and specs in how they put the system in. So the kind of things I was finding within the water system was a lot of, if you can believe it, irrigation pipe pretending to be water main. Very thin-walled stuff. It looks a lot like stuff you'd buy at Home Depot. The valves that should have been put in to isolate smaller sections of the system just weren't put in. I don't know if they bought them and didn't put them in, or they never put them in. So when I took over 2.5 years ago, and we were having an extraordinary amount of leaks, extraordinary. One anecdote, I took over the system in late February of 2023. We were paying the city of Manchester $30,000 a month for 14 million gallons of water we were buying from the treatment plant. I found leaks all over that part of the system, brought in a contractor, and we did the repairs in about a month and a half. And in April of 2023, we had fixed 38 leaks, cut off 7 million gallons of water, and reduced the payment to Manchester from $30,000 a month to $8,000 a month. And it stayed that way. So to say that leaks were a problem is an understatement. And since that time, I've watched, we've been on top of our leaks, but we wanted to find ways short of driving around the system 117 miles worth and just looking, which brought me to Kamstrup. Talbot County is large enough that we have to do a state EPD water audit, a required audit every year. And the first year that I was there and did it with Georgia Rural Water Association, they had a 60% water loss. Unaccounted for water loss, meaning you're buying it and 60% of it's running on the ground and you're not getting anything for it. So the water department was struggling very badly in terms of revenue. They were actually in the hole. It started out with a little bit, and then gradually there was slippage, and after 5 or 6 or 7 years, you're not really fixing your leaks, you're not watching your finances, you're not doing your water audit, you're not doing your paperwork, you're not even keeping up your equipment. And so when you did that, you get so far behind that there were many times during a month where you had whole sections of the water system where these people are out of water for a day or 2 days or 3 days. They're just completely out of water. And because of that, you had a lack of trust between the customers and the water department. It took me about a year to get the leak problem under control. The second time I did a water audit, it was still at 30%. And 30% water loss unaccounted for is still unacceptable. The water system in Talbot was fully repaired April of this year. I put it up for a distribution system award last year, and the state awarded it. We won. We got a distribution system of excellence in 2024. They come and did a full inspection on it, so the system was fine. I was down at a water conference 3 years ago in May at Jekyll, Georgia Rural Water Association. He goes, I got to show you this meter. And I'm like, Arthur, you don't do meters anymore. Why are you showing me anything? He goes, no, you don't understand. I've been in the business 40 years. You've got to see these meters. And I'm like, so he hands me a Kamstrup meter. I'm like, I already have a problem. He goes, I know you think it's plastic, right? I go, Arthur, it's plastic. It's not even brass. He goes, no, it's not plastic. It's a composite material using the same technology that makes Glock pistols, which I'm familiar with. Indestructible. And I'm like, it's Arthur, these are going in the ground. Soil is acid. It's going to eat them. People are going to break them. He goes, throw it on the ground. This is what he said to me. Throw it on the ground and break it. And I said, you mean like right now on the concrete floor that's covered by this little piece of carpet? He goes, throw it as hard as you can. So I did. And it just bounced. He goes, I took it home and put it in my vise in my workshop, and I tried to crush it. And it would not crush. I'm like, okay, now you have my attention. Tell me more. He goes, they're made in Denmark. They've been in America since 2014. I said, like, so why have I not ever heard of them? I said, so what's the deal? He goes, they don't have any moving parts. I'm like, that's not true. All these have to have something to register water. He goes, no, they're ultrasonic, which I know what that means. He said, just hold it up and look through it and find me a moving part. So I'm looking at it like a telescope, up to the lights in the ceiling. And I'm like, there's no moving part. How does this thing work? He goes, it's ultrasonic. He goes, these things read down to the 1/100th of a gallon. I said, we both know that when you get to less than a gallon, a low flow doesn't pick up. That's what goes first in the meter. And so, when you got a leak or a drippy faucet, it's not going to register. They're not going to get charged for that. He goes, no, this goes down to 1/100th of a gallon. I'm like, yeah, what else does it do? He goes, it listens for leaks. Well, now he had my attention because I'm like, explain what you mean by that. He said, Kamstrup has figured out how to make the meter so that it will pick up a frequency change in the water as it goes through the meter. You remember now, I taught high school physics and chemistry for 31 years. I'm keeping up with him. And I said, okay. He goes, so if the frequency changes, it picks it up because and I know, if you punch a hole in a pressurized line and the water's escaping, a sound is going to come out. It's hearing that sound. I'm like, okay, how far? Like a foot from the meter? He goes, oh no. It'll listen all the way down the service line to the house. It'll listen from the service line on the city side all the way to the main, and it will even listen on the main. And I'm like, are you serious? He goes, look them up. Go Google it, which I did and did the research on. And I'm like, okay. In fact, the first time I got on, it was March 14th when we went live in Talbot County with Kamstrup software. I mean, we were on our leaks by then, Penny. But the first day we used the software, we saw 40 leaks that nobody had reported. Now, a lot of them were on the customer side. But the problem is, in our economically in Talbot County, they have a leak and then they can't pay their bill. And we end up going out there to lock them, and they still can't pay their bill. So you're still not going to get your money. We've had a couple of leaks on our side where we knew it was down a road, but we used the meters to bracket it. So we'll go, okay, we know it's on this road. Let's start with the first meter on this road closest to the intersection and see if it's singing. And let's just go down the road and watch the acoustics. And as they get higher and higher, we're getting closer and closer. And then we can bracket it on both sides and go, okay, now you only have a 10-foot section to dig. 2 times, there's no water on the surface. There's no bubbling up. There's no pool. There's no puddle. There's no nothing. And there's a leak down there. And we dig it up, and there's a leak down there. And we fix it. I just know what I see. And I'm like, no, you've got the best meter in America. It does what it does. And I talked, the North American plant, as you know, is in Georgia in Forsyth. And so I went up and watched them made, which was impressive. Talked to the plant manager, and I said, okay, a certain percentage of any meter comes back. Like they're just they're not made. There's something wrong with them. But when they come out of the factory, how many come back to you? He goes, well, really none. And I went, none? He goes, no, they don't. We'll accept them back sometimes. I said, well, what would cause them to come back? He said, a truck ran over them and crushed them, or The installation guys cross-threaded them. I said, so it's really not even the meter. It's something that somebody else did to the meter. He goes, yeah. I said, so how many come back because they're manufactured wrong? He went, none. I said, how many do you have in the ground in America? 14 million? How long have they been in the ground? Since 2014? I'm like, wow, never seen this before, and we need to get the word out. So I said, you know what? Talbot County is a good test case. It's one of the worst water systems I've ever seen when it came in. They need this. They need revenue. You know they're not going to put them in the ground for 20 years. They're going to just sit there. They're not going to malfunction. They're reliable. They're down to 1/100th of a gallon, and they listen for leaks. What else could you ask for?